begins to rise. From Monday, gatherings of more than 6 people will be illegal in England, with the penalty fine for those flouting the law. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, denies that the government has lost control of the pandemic, and the Prime Minister is due to address the nation next hour. Let's run you through the plans as we know them so far. From Monday, no more than 6 people will be allowed to gather in any setting, whether that's indoors or outdoors, and that's a reduction from the current legal of 30. There will, however, be some exemptions to the rules, such as weddings and funerals. The maximum fine for breaking this new law is £3,200. Different rules apply elsewhere in the UK. In Scotland, up to 8 people from a maximum of 3 households are allowed to meet inside, while groups of 15 from up to 5 households can meet outside. In Wales, 4 different households are allowed to meet indoors, while in Northern Ireland, up to 6 people from 2 households can meet indoors, and up to 15 people can meet outdoors. Let's take a closer look now at how the virus appears to be spreading. The UK has recorded 2,460 new coronavirus cases, according to the latest figures. The number of deaths has risen by 32. The latest figures show 85 new hospital admissions in England.
It's gone up again.
42 in the last reported period in Wales. The Welsh figures do include suspected cases and confirmed ones, and none in Northern Ireland. The highest infection rate is now among 20 to 29-year-olds. Cases in that age group have shot up from just over 9 to 28 per 100,000 over the past 2 months. There's also been a significant increase in infections among 10 to 19-year-olds. The Prime Minister said that the current increase is down to people not sticking to the rules.
Alas, some people have not been following the guidance in the way that they should, and therefore we are seeing a rise in infections. And that's why today we are taking decisive steps, Mr. Speaker, to intensify our social distancing measures, the Rule of 6 that will be familiar to the country, in order that we can keep our economy going, that we can keep our schools open and keep this virus under control.
Live to Westminster and our correspondent Tom Rayner. The Prime Minister speaking there during Prime Minister's Questions a little earlier. We're going to be hearing more from him in the next hour. Tom, what can we expect?
Well, I think what was interesting in the clip you just played is the Prime Minister referring to the fact that the rule of 6, as he put it, would be familiar to people, because, of course, that was one of the requirements during the national lockdown period in England, at least. And I think that reflects what the government is trying to do here, which is to try and simplify the message, because given the different restrictions that have been put in place in different parts of the country with local lockdowns, there is some sense that perhaps people have either forgotten what the particular restrictions are, or feel that there are so many differing messages that ultimately they'll just progress with things as they see fit. And so I think this is an effort by the government to respond to those increasing numbers that you discussed by delivering a simple, straightforward rule to follow. But as we know with these things, it's often not that simple once you start thinking of all the possible scenarios and exemptions that people might come up with, whether it's to do with the size of their family. If they're a family of 6, does that mean that they can't meet anyone else? There's all sorts of questions which will no doubt be put to the Prime Minister, and indeed the Chief Scientific Advisor and Chief Medical Officer, who will join him at the podium in Downing Street in an hour's time to set all of this out. One thing that's worth noting, Sarah, is that in Parliament this afternoon there has been some criticism of the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, for not announcing these measures in the House of Commons as would normally be expected. It was put out in a press statement last night. The Prime Minister is delivering this press conference, but Matt Hancock was in the House of Commons delivering a statement yesterday afternoon, and the Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, says that he should have set out these new regulations to MPs first, because of course that allows MPs to debate the proposals, to raise objections, to ask questions of the ministers. But of course we will see questions being put to the Prime Minister in about an hour's time from journalists, as we saw during those press conferences at the height of the spread of the infection. First time for a while that we've seen this, but less than an hour to go now, and you'll see the Prime Minister alongside the Chief Medical Officer and the Chief Scientific Advisor from Number 10.
Yeah, as Tom was saying, that news conference due at 4 o'clock from Downing Street. The Prime Minister, Chris Whitty and Patrick Vallance will be there. That's at 4 o'clock. The Health Secretary has blamed those seeking inappropriate COVID tests for the difficulty some people are experiencing in getting a test. Matt Hancock told Sky's Kay Burley that only those people with coronavirus symptoms should get tested.
In the last couple of weeks, we have seen an increase in demand, including an increase in demand from people who are not eligible for tests, people who don't have symptoms. You are eligible for a test if you have symptoms of coronavirus or if you have a very specific reason otherwise. And I've been looking into this, including since we talked about it last week, and we have seen an increase. About 25% of people who are coming forward don't have symptoms, aren't eligible, don't have a reason for it. We've had stories of, schools sending a whole year group to go and get a test, and that is not appropriate. What is appropriate is if you have symptoms, then get a test.
Well, Roland Manthorpe has the latest from a testing centre in South London.
Behind me, it's pretty empty, and this is the really strange thing. That's what the government wants. That's what its current system is designed to do, because it is artificially restricting supply from places like this in South London, where the prevalence is low, so that testing capacity can be used where the prevalence is high. If you try and book a test today in this area, you get told tests aren't available, although looking at this, they are. That's because this isn't the pinch point. The pinch point is at the labs, and you can only push so many tests through those labs. That's why the government is getting into so much difficulty, especially given, as Matt Hancock mentioned, this rising demand.